What if Obi-Wan was on Coruscant when Palpatine tried to turn Anakin? Let's explore the depths of it in the video. Obi-Wan stands atop one of the upper levels of the Utapau city, watching as his forces are slowly deployed into the sinkhole below. They have a good idea where Grievous is, and now it is only a matter of tracking him down and destroying him once and for all. His men are making good progress in their deployment, and they should be ready to strike soon. But he finds his mind drifting elsewhere as he thinks of his recent conversations with the Jedi Council and Anakin. In truth, part of him is grateful that he is here instead of the capital, knowing the real fighting will be there. He did not leave the place on good terms, as Anakin was given the difficult task of spying on his friend and mentor, Chancellor Palpatine. It was a difficult decision, but one that had to be done. He knew the Chancellor was starting to overstep himself, involving the Republic in the affairs of the Jedi, not to mention the rumors of a Sith Lord in the Senate. It was the only way. But that doesn't make it any easier on the Jedi Master, who feels bad at putting his former Padawan in such a position. He takes a deep breath and decides to take a break from overseeing the troops to clear his head. Finding a quiet spot under a tree, Obi-Wan closes his eyes and begins to meditate. As he closes his eyes, he pictures himself on Coruscant, trying to imagine what is happening. The Jedi Temple is filled with Padawans, while the Masters discuss theology or study the archives. But then this vision begins to blur and shift. Suddenly, it is night, but he hears an eerie sound of footsteps as the 501st march up the temple steps. At their head, he spots Anakin leading them, a cloak draped over his head, but his presence clear. The frustration and anger radiating off him like an aura as the clones storm the temple. Obi-Wan tries to shake his head, but then the visions shift to something even worse. He watches as he and Anakin stand atop a burning landscape, their lightsabers raised at each other as they begin to duel. The news shakes Obi-Wan from his meditation. He clutches his chest and looks around, seeing himself back in Utapau. But as he calms down, he begins to realize that those were visions of the future, or at least one that could happen, a warning from the Force. He looks at the city below, preparing himself as it turns into a battlefield. Meanwhile, Anakin continues to worry about Padme. He smiles as he walks her back to the landing pad. Although he despises this mission, he has to admit it does have some benefits. Being able to spend time with Padme has been a great relief to him as he watches the progress of her pregnancy. With the visions in his head, seeing her now so happy and healthy is a relief. However, he continues to insist she take a break from politics and rest. Although he says she needs her strength, Padme just laughs him off and insists she is fine. He can never bring himself to tell her about the rumors, so finds himself just nodding along. Once she is gone, Anakin makes his way back to the Chancellor's office, attending his meetings with him and staying by his side at all times to look for anything that might lead them to the Sith Lord. But Palpatine is either the most cunning Sith Lord ever, or there is simply no evidence. Anakin instead finds himself bored. Day in and day out, all he does is serve as one of Palpatine's aides, helping him file reports, accompanying him during functions, and joining him during meetings. The Chancellor apologizes for these boring tasks, saying he understands Anakin is a man of action and would much rather go on missions. He accepts this apology with a smile, saying he doesn't hold it against him. He is angry at the Jedi for assigning them these tasks. Anakin would much rather be elsewhere, on a mission, with Padme, or even with Obi-Wan. Anything to keep his mind off these visions. It doesn't help that Palpatine continues to subtly remind Anakin of them. They are harmless enough, asking questions about how Padme is doing and whether he knows who the father of her children is. But as the day ends and Anakin heads home, he is surprised to see a message from Obi-Wan and activates it. His former master stands tall and rubs the back of his neck awkwardly.
Anakin, I know you are having a difficult time now. The Council asks much from you without showing you proper appreciation. But I want you to know your efforts are not unnoticed by them or me. There is much on your mind, and I want to give you a token to show you that your efforts have been noticed by me and others.
He suddenly begins to display a series of numbers. Codes.
These are my access codes to the Master's archives. Though you are not a Master, I believe that as a member of the Council, you should have the right to access this information. So please, study this information well. Just don't tell Master Windu.
Anakin chuckles despite himself and takes the information. Rather than head home, he heads to the Jedi Temple. His exhaustion is forgotten in an instant as he makes his way to the archives and punches in the codes. To his relief, they work, and the door slides open for him. Glancing one last time to make sure no one is watching, he makes his way down. However, he offers a silent thanks to the Force and Obi-Wan. To him, this is a sign that perhaps he might be able to save Padme. Meanwhile, Obi-Wan continues his search on the planet for Grievous. Although the Utapau people help him track down the droid forces of the 10th level of the city, it is still a massive area and there is no sign of Grievous. Each day that passes leaves him growing more and more anxious for some answers. The longer it takes here, the longer it will be until he returns to the Jedi Temple and finds Anakin. More visions had started to probe his mind, each one more troubling than the last. But in those images of his beloved temple burning and his friends being slaughtered, Obi-Wan does not find himself in any of them. Perhaps if he were to return, he could do something and prevent the destruction. But in the meantime, he forces himself to calm down as he continues his search. He still has a job to do. Thankfully, he soon gets word that General Grievous has been spotted inspecting his troops in the lower levels. Obi-Wan crouches atop a ledge overlooking the sprawling lower levels of Utapau City. Somewhere among them, General Grievous lurks. The Separatist leader is cunning, but so is Obi-Wan. Charging in headlong would be suicidal, and Obi-Wan has learned to temper his impulses over years of war.
General Kenobi, we've confirmed Grievous's presence on level 10. Orders?
Obi-Wan taps his chin thoughtfully and wonders how to approach this. Anakin's boldness comes to mind, his former Padawan, who was always one step ahead of the droids, thinking of some foolhardy scheme to lure them out.
Cody, I need you to prepare a diversion. Have our Y-Wing squadron ready for a bombing run on my signal. We're going to prepare a diversion.
A diversion, sir? Grievous won't fall for it.
Oh, he will, as long as we provide the right bait.
Obi-Wan works quickly. He positions his Delta 7 Aether Sprite starfighter on a flight path over the droid position, giving them a clear view of it as he has R4 perform a flight patrol before approaching one of the landing platforms and then flying off minutes later, apparently scanning for supplies. A perfect bait for an ambush. The General's predatory instincts will drive him to investigate any lone Jedi in his territory. Within minutes, a squadron of Vulture droids descends on the starfighter and fires their cannons. R4 makes a good show of it, spinning around, always a good trick, and avoiding their shots. He even moves behind them and destroys a couple of these droid fighters before taking a shot toward the wing. The ship spirals downward in a controlled crash, skidding to a halt in a smoldering heap on a narrow bridge. As the smoke clears, Grievous emerges from the shadows, flanked by his Magna Guards and a large force of droids to survey the destruction. As he approaches, he tears open the cockpit and looks inside. Grievous's eyes widen as he sees the seat empty. Suddenly, R4 pops free from the wreckage, beeping frantically, and begins rolling toward the edge of the ridge. Grievous snaps his attention to the astromech. He raises a clawed hand.
Seize it! We will learn where the Jedi is from that droid.
Before the Magna Guards can react, a shadow passes over them. From above, a squadron of Y-Wings dive into view, their payloads primed. The Y-Wings unleash a torrent of bombs, the explosions rocking the platform and sending plumes of fire and smoke into the air. Droids are obliterated in seconds, and Grievous barely manages to leap to safety, his Magna Guards shielding him from the brunt of the blast. As the platform smolders and echoes of the booms fade, Obi-Wan activates his comlink again.
Commander Cody, initiate the assault. Let's bring this war to an end.
From hidden positions across the city, battalions of clone troopers surge forward, their blasters lighting up the shadows of Utapau's sinkhole. ATTE walkers stomp into position, firing at the ranks of droid forces scrambling to regroup after the bombing run. The roar of the battle is deafening. Grievous, battered but far from defeated, climbs onto a nearby transport. His gaze meets the clones, and his arm raises as he glares at them.
Kenobi, you'll pay for that.
As the clones press their advantage, Obi-Wan is already leaving. Joined by R4, he hops onto a borrowed fighter and flies off, setting course to Coruscant. Over the next few days, Anakin's mood takes a marked improvement. With the Jedi Archives and the Hidden Master's archives at his disposal, he feels like he is truly making progress in helping Padme. He spends all his spare time hidden in the archives, looking for anything that can help him save Padme. He searches for healing techniques, meditation rituals, and case studies of such things. While the visions persist, he can at least manage it a bit better. However, his worries do not fully abate as Palpatine redoubles his efforts. He can sense something has changed with how Anakin now defends the Jedi, claiming they are knowledgeable about many things. He takes this as a sign that Anakin might have more information than he let on, so Palpatine focuses on questioning this knowledge. As a seasoned politician and one who has studied the Jedi arts for many years, he knows the right areas to hit. He points out that the Jedi's school of thought is limited. They only study the Force from one perspective, leaving them unable to learn everything beyond that. Even the most knowledgeable Jedi are left only half-filled. During a trip to the opera, he takes this chance to challenge him, as Anakin says the Jedi care about healing and life.
You know, for all the Jedi's talk on healing, the Sith are also capable of such things. There have been dark side healers, once capable of performing feats many Jedi deem unnatural because of their methods, sometimes even bringing someone back from the brink of death.
This time, Anakin is intrigued and hears more. At that moment, Palpatine knows he has him. He tells him the fable of Darth Plagueis the Wise, who could even save people from death. The young Jedi listens closely, and soon the play is forgotten about entirely, and the two talk about this power. When Anakin leaves, he finds himself conflicted. Now more than ever, what Palpatine suggests can make everything the Jedi are offering him irrelevant. It won't matter what he finds in the archives of the Masters if he has the power in the palm of his hand. But before he can think on it more, he receives a message, this time from an anonymous source asking to meet at Dex's diner and saying they must talk about Padme. In the dingy diner in the lower districts, Anakin sees a hooded figure gesturing for him to join him as food is served. To his shock, the figure pulls off his hood and reveals Obi-Wan.
Master, what are you doing here? Shouldn't you be on Utapau?
I should, but urgent matters pulled my attention back here. You.
Me?
Obi-Wan steps closer, studying his former apprentice. The lines on Anakin's face are deeper, his expression tight with conflict.
I've been sensing something here. Something within you. A growing darkness and chaos. What's troubling you?
It's nothing.
I know you, Anakin. Whatever this is, it's not nothing. I've seen the way you've been withdrawing from the Council. From me.
Master, you've been a great help to me. More than you should. In truth, I am immensely grateful.
But it is not enough. You are not just feeling underappreciated. You need something. I know it has to do with Padme.
Padme is none of your concern.
She is if she's affecting you like this. I know you care about her. More than you should, perhaps. But she gives you happiness in a life where joy is scarce. I do not fault you for that.
You don't?
Satine died less than a year ago. I know more than anyone the pain and fear of losing one you love. I know what you feel. If something is threatening her, I can help.
Anakin looks away, conflicted. For a moment, he seems ready to confide in Obi-Wan, but the weight of Palpatine's words holds him back. He shakes his head. Obi-Wan takes a deep breath, reaching out through the Force. What he senses in Anakin troubles him. A darkness, subtle, but growing.
Anakin, whatever you've heard and seen, remember who you are. We will protect Padme together, but you must trust us. Trust me.
The Jedi, they don't understand. They're holding me back.
Then just trust me.
The Chancellor is behind this. At least, I think so. He is too knowledgeable about the Sith for a simple politician. But I cannot act against him. I fear something will happen to Padme if I do.
I'll keep an eye on her. Just keep an eye on him.
In the quiet halls of the Jedi Archives, Obi-Wan pores over ancient records, his brow furrowed in concentration. His fingertips hover over the glowing console as he searches for any information about Jedi healing, trying to hone his skills for the challenge beyond. But from that, he also searches for something else. Force manipulation in dreams. He knows that there is something unnatural about these visions. Eventually, he stumbles upon some documents from the Old Republic, saying how the Sith have taken to using the Force to mess with soldiers' sleep, to manipulate them. Obi-Wan leans closer and begins reading this document. But as he investigates, he fails to hear footsteps behind him until a lightsaber is ignited. Obi-Wan straightens, his hand instinctively moving toward his lightsaber. Emerging from the shadows is a Jedi temple guard, his golden mask glinting in the dim light.
Master Kenobi, you shouldn't be here. Aren't you supposed to be on Utapau?
I have business here that couldn't wait.
Then I must report this to the Jedi Council.
That will not be necessary.
On the contrary, I think it is.
He suddenly surges forward, slashing at Obi-Wan, who flips back. The datapad he is reading is sliced in half as the guard ignites his weapon and swings at him. Obi-Wan blocks this strike, directing it towards the floor and kicking him back. The guard stumbles but swings again. Obi-Wan blocks it with one hand, and with the other, sends a chair flying forward and slamming into him. As the guard stumbles back, Obi-Wan rushes past him and disappears into the night. The next day, the guard reports this incident to the Jedi Council, who are stunned by this development. Palpatine soon gets word of this and expresses his displeasure, reminding them Obi-Wan is a member of the Republic military and accountable to their justice as he was breaking their regulations.
How disappointing. I trusted Obi-Wan to carry out his mission on Utapau, but it seems he has abandoned his duty. But such desertion cannot go unanswered, especially for one like Obi-Wan.
As the transmission ends, Palpatine looks at the young Jedi.
Obi-Wan would never abandon his duty.
Would he not? He is searching for something. Perhaps evidence of treason against me, or perhaps something worse. I can feel his doubt, his suspicion of the Senate. It pains me to say it, Anakin, but Obi-Wan may be falling to mistrust.
Anakin's jaw tightens, but he remains silent. Palpatine steps closer, his voice lowering.
You care deeply for Padme, don't you, Anakin? I sense your worry for her. I could teach you how to protect her, how to save her. But you must prove your loyalty to me. Bring Obi-Wan back to the temple. If he is innocent, then let the council decide his fate. If not, well, we cannot allow dissenters to endanger our efforts to bring peace to the galaxy.
Anakin hesitates, but the mention of Padme tips the balance.
I'll bring him back.
Obi-Wan steps onto a quiet Coruscant street, shrouded in his cloak. He knows he's being followed, but he doesn't quicken his pace. The Force hums with a warning, though he doesn't sense immediate danger. Something is tugging at him, urging him to pause. He makes his way to a nearby roof and closes his eyes, starting to meditate. Here, on Coruscant, the images are foggier than before, and he struggles to concentrate, but his face twitches as he senses something. Another image runs through his mind, one of Padme in her home, but she is frantic as she tries to barricade her doors while her guards raise their blasters.
Obi-Wan.
The voice stops him in his tracks. He turns to see Anakin standing behind him, his expression conflicted.
Anakin, what are you doing here? You're supposed to be at the temple.
Funny. I could ask you the same thing. You've caused quite a ruckus. Now I need to bring you back. The Chancellor and the Jedi Council's orders.
If I go back, the Chancellor will ensure I don't survive long.
I'm taking you to the temple. I'll give you to the Jedi. Make sure you get a fair trial.
There won't be a trial if Palpatine has his way. Anakin, if you're going to take me somewhere, take me to Padme's home. She's in danger. I can sense it.
What are you talking about?
I saw a vision. She's in danger.
For a moment, Anakin hesitates, torn between his loyalty to Palpatine and his trust in Obi-Wan. Finally, he nods.
If you're wrong, I'll take you back to the temple myself. But if you're right...
Obi-Wan doesn't wait for him to finish. Together they sprint toward Padme's apartment. As they move, he explains what he learned about dream manipulation and how he suspects Palpatine is doing that. They arrive just in time. Inside Padme's home, the temple guard stands over her, his lightsaber ignited and glowing red. Padme clutches her stomach, her fear palpable. Around her, the senator's guards lay dead.
Step away from her!
The guard turns, lowering his mask. revealing a Pauan male whose cold face curls into a smile.
You shouldn't be here. This is necessary for the greater good.
Obi-Wan and Anakin charge together, their blades flashing in unison as they attack. The guard sighs and blocks their first attack, slashing his blade forward to try and throw Obi-Wan back. But this doesn't slow him down as Anakin covers his weakness. The younger Jedi rains down attacks on him, allowing Obi-Wan to rejoin the fight. He parries the guard's next attack and slides past the second before thrusting his lightsaber down. The guard blocks the attack, but just barely, and this puts him on the defensive, allowing Anakin to strike at his waist. The guard grits his teeth and he tries to slash at Anakin, but the Jedi advances at him, fueled by his love for Padme, and begins to force him back. With a lunging sweep, he sends the guard slamming back, but Obi-Wan is on him too, stabbing downward at his feet and sending him scrambling. But as he doesn't have anywhere to go, Anakin drives his lightsaber into his chest. The guard gasps and falls to his knees, dropping to the ground. As the dust settles, Padme rushes to Anakin, her relief evident. Thankfully, it seems like Padme is okay, beyond her fight. Obi-Wan stands nearby, his thoughts racing.
That wasn't just a guard. That man, he's something far worse. And he's working for Palpatine. How perceptive, Master Kenobi.
You've been lying to me all this time.
Oh, my dear boy. I've done nothing but show you the truth. The Jedi are weak, and their code binds you. I offer you freedom, the power to save the one you love. But your master has always held you back.
You're wrong. You've twisted everything. Turned me against the people I care about. But not anymore.
If you're so determined to oppose me, then so be it. I shall show you the true power of the dark side.
Palpatine moves faster than either Jedi can react, leaping toward them with a ferocious spin. His blade slashes downward, forcing Obi-Wan and Anakin to split apart to avoid the attack. He lands gracefully, swinging his lightsaber at Anakin, who barely brings up his weapon in time to block. Obi-Wan comes from the other side, swinging at him, but the Chancellor ducks under his attack, and his foot lashes out, catching him in the shin. He follows up with a swing that nearly takes his head off. Anakin brings his lightsaber down in a vicious slash that forces the Chancellor to shift to the defensive once again. As Obi-Wan recovers, he curses and pulls away, then unleashes a burst of force lightning that sends him slamming against the wall.
Obi-Wan!
He presses forward with a relentless assault, letting his lightsaber rain down on him, his attacks growing stronger but more erratic. Palpatine matches them blow for blow before sending him back.
Good, Anakin. Let your anger guide you. Embrace the power of the dark side.
Anakin roars in defiance, his blade clashing violently with Palpatine's weapon. He pushes back against him and roars, sweeping his lightsaber forward and forcing him back, allowing Obi-Wan to rise to his feet, clutching his side. His vision blurs for a moment, but he steadies himself and retrieves his lightsaber. As the two trade blows, Obi-Wan moves to join them. Drawing on the Force to dull the pain in his chest, he intercepts Palpatine's next strike, relieving Anakin and allowing him a moment to catch his breath. The two Jedi coordinate their strikes, their years of fighting side by side shining through as Obi-Wan's careful defensive style allows him to swap in whenever Anakin starts to tire, making it impossible for the Chancellor to get some relief. The Sith Lord snarls, his movements becoming more erratic. He hurls objects from the room with the Force, sending statues and furniture flying toward the Jedi. Obi-Wan deflects a large chunk of debris, while Anakin ducks under a flying table and closes the gap between himself and Palpatine. With a surge of strength, Anakin lashes at Palpatine's legs, forcing the Sith to leap in the air. Obi-Wan anticipates the move, and thrusting his blade upwards, striking him in the chest. The Chancellor's eyes widen as he drops to the ground in a heap. The sight of this shocks Padme, but the three waste no time in reporting this to the Senate, who launch an investigation into Palpatine. Obi-Wan is cleared of all wrongdoings for deserting his position, as he was hunting Palpatine. More importantly, the Battle of Utapau does allow them to track down the CIS leadership on Mustafar, so although Grievous escapes, he is without an army. Meanwhile, Anakin is made a Jedi Master for his efforts, and Obi-Wan even resigns his seat to give him a proper position. That's our theory. The Star Wars universe is a galaxy filled with exciting stories and possibilities, and we love exploring them. If you want to accompany us on this journey to a galaxy far, far away, then please like, share, and subscribe to our channel.